I've been with the company for a long time, since we pretty much started 3 years ago or so. And it's been an amazing journey to see how far we've come in such a short amount of time and changing the lives of hundreds of people, probably thousands of people at this point around California through building ADUs. So we're excited to share what we've learned and how you can start working with us as soon as today. We've invested pretty heavily in technology, so show you some tools and tricks and tips to where you can get started to explore building an ADU on your property. All right, well, let's get into it. Kind of first and foremost, what are we doing here today? We're going to go through kind of an overview of building an ADU, what an ADU is, California, those new rules and regulations, who's building, kind of the demographics of what makes sense to build. Why would you choose villa? Really becoming an industry expert in your neighborhood. That way now across all of California, which is pretty unique. And then, of course, how I mentioned, you can start as soon as today utilizing some technology and tools that we have in place to get most of your questions answered pretty quickly around how much a project could cost, or what the feasibility of putting an 800 square foot 2-bedroom 2-bath home on your property. We've got the tech, and we're happy to share all that information for you quickly and for free. So let's get into it. What is an ADU? An ADU stands for Accessory Dwelling Unit. And that really is now defined as accessory to the primary residence in the state of California. And that means that an ADU is not a primary home. So that means if you have a raw piece of land, or even like a fire affected property, and there's no dwelling already on that property, that would not be an accessory dwelling unit. It would be a primary home. So an ADU is a second home. They come in all different shapes and sizes. They've been named things in the past like granny flats and guest units, but really they are now ADUs throughout California, and a lot of times they can be as large as 1,200 square feet and have their own entrance and separate electrical and separate address. You can really create a fully second detached home by utilizing infrastructure that's already there on the property. So you can build an ADU for a lot less than you would be able to build the same home as a primary home, for example. Some of the new rules and regulations in California have been a big game changer. And the reason for that is because now I can work with clients that are in Santa Rosa, San Jose, and San Diego, and largely be talking about the same statewide consistent guidelines throughout the entire state. And that is a relatively new approach since 2020. Now you've got these statewide consistent guidelines that are really encouraging and taking the power away from local jurisdictions around what they can or cannot put on you to build an ADU. There's no more discretionary review. It's very much ministerial. As long as you're checking the boxes, it's your legal right to build at least 800 square feet on your property, if not larger. So you can have an ADU, a junior ADU. We'll talk a little bit about that. Faster permits, no parking requirements is a big one. No owner occupancy is really big, especially for all of those who have investment properties with great backyards. 3 years ago, you couldn't build an ADU in that property unless you lived on one of those homes. And that really wasn't fair or helped anyone create more housing. So that's gone. 4-foot setbacks is really helpful, really open up your buildable area. And even front and side yard ADUs are now possible. Again, that 800 square foot limit, you can really flex on that and utilize the state consistent guideline to leverage that to build an ADU. That's for single family residential properties. For multifamily properties, it's gotten a lot better. If you've got, like, for example, this property in Santa Cruz was 8-plex, and we were able to build 2 detached ADUs. There's a 1,200 square foot and an 800 square foot back there. And then those carport conversions, you can also do conversion ADUs. So we were able to add 4 more homes to that property just from these new laws. So multifamily properties, we've got a whole nother division now at our company that really focuses on that. So if you are a real estate investor and have a lot of multifamily parcels or even just a duplex on a property, we'd love to talk to you about building at least 2 ADUs, if not more. So why is building an ADU so popular now? And there's so many reasons that we just couldn't put all of them here on this text, but we narrowed it down to a few. And largely it's because, the laws have changed. In early 2020, March 2020, pandemic hits, and it really started changing the way people viewed their homes and how they use their homes and what they needed from their homes. And, working remotely is very popular now. Creating housing for a loved one to be closer to you or your family, pretty big need. The demand for housing is higher than ever, which is pushing up price for the primary homes and all these single family residential homes. And that's harder now for the next generation to buy those homes. So what do they have to do? They're going to either rent or develop on a family's property to have a house and start a family of their own. So there's a lot of reasons and a lot of different demographics and use cases that we've seen out of ADUs. And a lot of them are, hitting almost all of them at some point during, a 20-year span of an ADU's existence. I am inside of an ADU right now at our Santa Rosa model home. Definitely love for you to check that out sometime. We have model homes all throughout California, but this is kind of our first headquartered property we own. So I was actually in this property. We put it up for sale just to kind of test the market and see what ADU values could go for. And the number one topic that I heard every day when the home was being toured by realtors was families saying, hey, I don't have to rent anymore and my folks can sell their property. And now all of a sudden we've got this multi-generational property for our whole family. And that was really appealing to them. And I was surprised to hear that. I've heard of it and I've helped a lot of people with that, but to hear that consistently almost every day of people looking for properties that have multiple homes on them, it's actually pretty rare and there's not many of them there. So that is a huge use case right there. It's also a great way to age in place, retire, fund your retirement in a meaningful way. A lot of these properties have just skyrocketed in value and almost, you almost can't afford to live there anymore, but you love the community and you love the neighborhood and your close proximity to family. And, maybe you don't need this 4 or 5 bedroom house anymore, but you don't want to leave the neighborhood. Building an ADU is an amazing opportunity to kind of leverage that geographically to stay in that neighborhood without having to cough up $1 million+ to buy another small home somewhere nearby. First-time homeowners, I know firsthand how hard it is to live in the communities that you grew up in. I'm a Bay Area guy and, have a family, and it's very, very difficult to, get out of that, rental type of a scenario because it's just super hard to launch your career and get in a house. So being able to provide an opportunity for first-time homeowners is a huge, huge part of what we do, and love to be a part of that conversation. At any point here too in the mix, the savvy investors, and this is like not the savvy investors that you would initially think. If you own a property now and you've got some land in your backyard, you can now be an investor. You can have an investment property, and that is very much not even something people initially thought of themselves having that option. Now you definitely have the opportunity to be an investor as investment property, property manager, all of that by having just simply have Villa build you an ADU. there is, a whole laundry list of reasons to choose villa. And that's kind of what we sought out for initially, was trying to build ADUs and just realized how complicated it was. And, there's 100 people on this webinar right now. If you were to ask everyone what the first step of building an ADU would be, you'd probably get around 100 different answers. So trying to package all of that together in an organized, meaningful way was really something we sought out to do as a company 3.5 years ago, because traditional construction for ADUs doesn't really make sense anymore. It's the same old process, and it's the unknowns, and it's still an architect and who takes care of the permitting and, the builder there, but like, it's complicated, it's slow. There's no price guarantee until the very, very last day, at no fault to their own. They just don't know what the lumber or labor rates are going to be 6 or 8 months from the point of that conversation that you're having with them initially about what it may cost or how long it would take. So Villa really set out to do things a little differently. And that is, let's create a platform that's extremely user-friendly and really creates a much smoother, the most affordable, hassle-free, as much as you possibly can. If you're building a permanent home on your property, really just kind of take the weight off of your shoulders and do that for you. And that is truly from start to finish. It is not, hey, we've got a good design, or hey, we've got, we can build you this home for this much money. But it's like, well, there's a lot more involved in building an ADU than just the house or just the builder. There's many, many more parts to it. And we're taking on that responsibility as your own project manager. We have built hundreds of homes now throughout California, and that is something that no other ADU builder can say. ADUs really weren't even a thing until 2020, really, as like a defined statewide definition of what an ADU was. So the fact that Villa has quite literally 150 homes in the ground in Northern California, actively building lots and lots more in Southern California. We launched about a year later or so for Southern California. We don't have enough space on this slide to show you all the cities and communities that we're building in. So we just put up, a dozen more counties, because we are building all over the place. We're not building in every corner of California either, though. Like, we're focusing on areas that we know really well, that we have construction managers on our team in your neighborhood that have that network of subcontractors and permit experts and everybody that we need to assure you a smooth project in your neighborhood. So we actually don't cover all of California quite yet. We just launched in Sacramento and in San Diego. And so we're really getting a lot more reps in those communities. But we are not jumping the gun and just saying we can build anywhere. Yes, we can deliver most places, but we also want to be the local expert with the network to assure that you have a smooth process building from start to finish. I think I've kind of mentioned this, but if you didn't understand by now, let's create a slide about it. It's truly design, permit, build, install, hand you the keys, give you the warranty. It's everything. And the simple fact that we have all of the designs already done kind of helps you jump the gun a couple months and 10 grand, most likely, because you would have had to work with an architect and figure out the right floor plan and get some elevations and blueprints and kind of block lines and figure everything out long before you even could hand that over to a contractor to see the bid, the guesstimate. And we've already got all the floor plans done for you. We have local in-house permit experts that we've gotten approved in over 100 jurisdictions now throughout California. We leverage the manufacturing facilities, the biggest in North America, to build our homes for you, install them for you, and hand you a wrapping warranty, all in a project management aspect too. So all you have to do is check in with us every couple of weeks. with either your project manager or your construction manager and get updates and hopefully give us some money along the way. But that's a really simple, clean process. As far as our floor plans, we keep adding to these, but we do have 15 configurable floor plans, and it really means that you can get something that is what you really want. We're able to get it for you. We have exhausted all of the designs, right? We have probably 40 or 50 different designs that we've done over these last 3 years. So the ones that you see today are curated, architecturally designed as ADUs from our company for backyards based off of customer feedback of exactly what would be the best for their properties and the layouts and where's that water heater door because that's in a weird location in some homes. All of it just makes sense. We don't want your big windows facing in other windows of the primary home. ADUs are not primary homes. They're different. So let's design these in a little bit more meaningful way. Let's actually enhance the floor plan to make it as efficient as possible when you're living inside of it. And that includes things like 9-foot ceilings and just a nice flow, really clean lines throughout to make everything maximize the efficiency when you're living inside of these homes. Timelines are fast. Like I said, it's, they're manufactured right here in California. We've got 3 of the largest manufacturers that are building our homes, our proprietary designs. We can put solar on them. They're HUD compliant, which means a lot of times you can bypass solar. We can bypass some of the really strict Title 24 building codes. So where we can really keep price points down while still giving you a high quality home. We have curated design packages. And I like to say that our homes are configurable because we do give you quite a bit of options of flooring or countertops or how large your windows are. These amazing clear story windows behind me. Do you want a kitchen island or skylights? There's a lot of things you can do, but we also really do a good job at limiting you to decision fatigue and just becoming overwhelmed with too many choices. I worked in custom home before, and there was a tray of about 30 different grout colors that you could choose from. And it was just kind of a nightmare. It's very unnecessary. So for ADUs at these price points, like this is amazing designs. We've worked with a design firm called Saffron and Poe out of Sausalito to help us curate these, and they're beautiful. You really can't go wrong with any options that you pick and choose with our homes. Our homes, we have a lot of different floor plans, as I mentioned, but we really can go anywhere from the traditional quintessential backyard ADU of what you might think of, like a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. You just need a little office space, flex room / studio. Like that's kind of what these are. But like, don't be fooled. That 550 and that larger one, the 665 square feet, these are pretty sizable houses, and they squeeze into fairly narrow backyards. So when you're inside of these homes, they feel pretty grand, especially with those 9-foot flat ceilings and clear story windows going up even a couple more feet. The 2-bedroom designs, I'm really starting to look at some of these 800 square foot 2-2, that's a home you could live in for the rest of your life and never feel like you are sacrificing space, like walk-in closets, walk-in en-suites off your primary bedroom, open kitchen, living, dining space. Like you're not really losing anything from a larger home just because this floor plan is pretty efficient. They go up even further than that. They're 3-bedroom options. And that's what's very exciting is that, jurisdictions allow for 1,000 square foot. With our designs, you can get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with an open concept. We're delivering one tomorrow in San Rafael. And that's an incredible floor plan that really provides you with everything that any larger home has, like lots of pantry. Their home has an optional 8-foot island in it. That 1,000 square foot offers you more than most 1,500 square foot primary homes just because of a newer design from our architect who designed that. and it's a great floor plan. These Big Daddy 1200s, I mean, if you can, you should. If you got the space, you know, that's the biggest bang for the buck you can get right there in ADUs. And hardly anybody offers a 1,200 square foot ADU. And that, you know, the center one there at 1,200A is like amazing. Let's talk about timeline. Timeline for our projects generally are under a year. And I say generally because some jurisdictions, the permitting is still out of our control. We're going to give you the best opportunity to get in and get through as quickly as possible. We're going to put together the most professional plan set that we can offer. But, you know, sometimes they go that 60-day limit and then come back with comments and this back and forth. So we try to avoid comments as much as we can. But even this process that I'm talking about, if you wanted to sign up with us with a project proposal, even that's included in this kind of year time frame. That's really pretty fast. You know, if you're talking about building a home from start to finish. And really, if you look at this timeline, phase 2, the last few months there, that's when all the action is at the property. So you go from literally nothing to a foundation, and a couple weeks later, we're delivering a home that is pretty complete upon arrival. You've got a full kitchen and appliances and flooring, usually done at least one side or all of it. Bathrooms, everything's done. I mean, you see refrigerators flying through the air. If it's a crane set. So it happens very fast, and it means it's not disruptive to your property or your neighborhood as much as it would be to just hear hammering on nails for a year long, which happens even for a little addition off of a home. It could take forever to do that. And so the timeline disruption to your property is the least it can possibly be to build an ADU. And a lot of times we can go way faster, but I like to start with like, let's say a year and be really excited if it's faster. And that includes the permitting time frame. It only takes a matter of weeks or so to get, you know, from 0 to like 90% complete. It's very exciting. We also have these ready-built ADUs, and the ADU, ASAP ADUs, it's kind of fun to say, but that really means we have inventory now. We have a sales rack, and you can just buy straight off that rack. It's good for people that are really time sensitive, that want a real quick early price guarantee on that unit, because we can lock in the price of the home because it's already built. And we can get it done typically several months faster than a standard project, one that you would design yourself and we would build it for you. That's kind of our standard process. So if the home's already done, you don't have the autonomy to switch out flooring or do some of the design upgrades you want. But a lot of times it's up to you to make that decision if you want to design your own or grab one off the shelf. So we've got all the options for you, even faster with those off-the-shelf ready-built ADUs. So let's talk about what you can do today to start designing and exploring building an ADU with Villa. So this is where you can take screenshots of the presentation. If I didn't mention it, I think this webinar is being recorded and will be emailed to you. But if not, there's a couple things you should remember. And one of it is to go to villahomes.com//get started. And that allows you to type in your address of your property. And this is the new cool tech. This is where, hey, let's just get here in the 21st century when it comes to construction, building, feasibility, everything. So you can drag and drop all of our different floor plans onto your property, rotate them, and see actually what fits, whether it's orange or a green symbol, to see what ADU might fit there. Once you've selected that home, that's when you can go in and start designing it and picking out the type of roof and the color and any upgrades that you want to have selected. I mean, this is all no cost associated with it. We just kind of give you the tools to play with. There are thousands of people interested in building ADUs, that may be not quite ready yet or feel like they have to commit to something early on. So we're like, hey, based off of our information out of building 500 homes throughout California so far, here is a few options and some general price points that you can kind of start playing with around feasibility, cost, timing. We ask you a few basic questions around your property to help, because if you need a crane and you're on a slope, that's different than a flat field. So we're going to help you get pretty close to what we think is a good cost allowance for your entire project, all for free, all on our website, villahomes.com/get started. So everything's there. It'll break out everything that we believe you should have set aside in your mind to build an ADU, whether it's with us or anyone else. That's what we can offer you for free on our website. That's going to get you fired up though. And if that all looks good and you want to start working with someone in a little bit more serious way, a little bit more meaningful to you, and really start getting line by line items and having deeper conversations with team members like myself on the feasibility of building a couple different types of homes, say you got a couple, 3 different options, that's when we would suggest signing up for this project proposal. It's $500 and it's fully refundable for any reason. It's more or less us having to make sure that you are in our jurisdiction and you kind of generally know the price points, and that we can deliver. Not every property we can deliver our prefab homes to because they're so complete upon arrival. So we make it fully refundable, but it also can go towards your total project, of course. So again, refundable for any reason. It says no questions asked. I think that I am generally curious when people say, oh, it's please refund me, I'm not going to move forward. Like, okay, but like, just curious why. So I might ask a question, but generally speaking, it's no questions asked is a good way a term that we use, because all the time, we need to spend the time to answer the questions that you really need about building an ADU on your property. And we have to do that from a team approach. Our site engineers, really knowledgeable home consultants and permitting. And like you can start kind of getting deeper ties to all the questions, construction questions that you might have that we might just not be able to answer quickly online or over a phone call. So yeah. You get a project proposal, and then if that all looks good, we've got a nice clean timeline, and it's only $9,500 to actually start all the way through phase 1. So we're still not really asking you to financially commit to a project at that point. We're just saying, let's start working together and become your project manager so we can go get you an approved permit and then do a final not to exceed locked in bid for you. And that's something that nobody else offers, like a true price lock or not to exceed price for your entire project before the project starts. It's just not out there. And most general contractors would never agree to that because of how unknown the future is, especially in construction. So if we get to the 1 yard line and we're like, okay, we're going to build this house like 3 weeks from now and buy all these materials and start site work 3.5 weeks out, and we have all the infrastructure and everyone there and all the subs ready to go. Now we're locking in your timeline and your price, and let's go. So that's all phase 2 stuff, but really a really good approach to building an ADU. I, again, worked in the custom home world, and, I think that it's nice to truly like do very detailed designs, but not all the time do you need to actually match everything exactly the same. These homes in a 250 to 350 range, like this is and can be a dream ADU to you without you having to run around to dozens of different, flooring and tile shops all over the Bay Area or all over California just to try to like get an idea of what this ADU could cost. We have it all for you. We have really good upgrades. We can keep it lean and mean if you like. Again, if you can start at villahomes.com/get started, that's a great place to put in your address. See if you're in our buildable area. Yes, you are. Okay, let's drag and drop a couple of different homes, see if they fit. If it's close, let's still keep going because sometimes it's not always perfect. But we'd love to keep working with you and have a really non-financially committed process for you to go through if you are looking at getting more information around building an ADU on your property. Let's get into some Q&A. I see a few up here. Let's dive into them. Any input with ADUs in a historical district? I would say this is where I can lean on, some of the Assembly Bill 68 and some of the laws that were passed that blanket all of California, that you're able to build at least up to 800 square feet without this rigorous design review or really strict, you wouldn't be prohibited to build an ADU on your property, especially if it was 800 or less. You don't have to like put single pane glass windows in, for example. So hopefully that helps. Absolutely. Let's take a look at it. And, if we find we can't, then you had the best team working for you to find that answer for you for free of charge. Or if you signed up for a project proposal, then we really can access some of the wise people at the company to dive into permitting or HOAs or CCNRs or anything that might have a design review in it. Are any communities going to be built in Riverside? I believe so. I think we have some. It kind of depends. If you're going too far up into the mountains, like maybe not, but closer to LA, yes. I'd have to really figure out the address and type in, and feel free to call our number and you'll talk to a live representative who can get you that answer of like, where are we at here as far as exactly what we could do. I think Afton's behind the scenes, maybe providing a phone number or some more information right now on that question. When it's tied to septic, would the septic have to be resized? The problem with knowing a lot more information now than I did years ago is everything seems to start with, well, it depends. So septic systems, there's a lot of workarounds with them. What we found best to keep costs down and not have to redo this septic system is to do a room swap. If your house was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, it goes off of bedroom count. If you're able to do a conversion of one of those bedrooms in your primary home, you might be able to grab that and use that for the ADU. And then all of our homes have den options as well. So you could still get away with 1,000 square foot, 1-bedroom with a den with 2 bathrooms as an ADU, a lot of times just off of a bedroom swap with a septic system. But septic is definitely one of those things that's like, it's typically a little slower and larger cost. What we'd recommend is doing an evaluation of your current system to see what the capacity is and what your options are for building an ADU. And any engineering company would be able to help you do that first, or we can make some recommendations for you. Do you work on garage conversions, or are these only standalone units? I'm glad you asked that, and sorry if I didn't say that earlier. Villa only does detached ADUs. And that means, and we do that because we can kind of create our own, live in our own world of rules and regulations and get away with a lot more if it's not touching anything else, or we're not tinkering with something that's already existing. A lot of it just has to do with fire, the new fire laws, and like a 3-foot space all around so they can literally walk a fire hose around the whole ADU, or needs to be 8 feet away from a primary home. If it's touching the house, your primary home, or if it's a part of an existing structure, you kind of have to retrofit a lot of that space in order to get an ADU permitted. Like, for example, if you were to do an additional ADU, like an addition off of your home, you could only do up to 50% of your primary home square footage, or you might retroactively trigger the need for fire sprinkler suppression system to be installed in that entire structure, including your primary home. And that could be just massive, a massive disruption to your life. So detached ADUs, faster, typically less expensive, and you can bypass having to mess around with anything to do on the property. Garage conversions exist, and that's great, especially if it's attached to that home. That's where you can do that junior ADU. Limit is 500 square feet. And most garages are 22 by 24 feet. So you're well under 500 square feet there. Villa does not do garage conversions, but if you live on the property and that garage is touching the primary home, you can do a junior ADU with that garage and build a villa ADU in your backyard if you have the space. The last thing I'll say about garage conversions is just like, it's kind of all the same amount of time and costs, and it's just to get you a relatively small structure. It's fine if you don't have the space on your property, that's a great option, but like garages were never meant to be like conditioned living space, right? You need a subfloor and bring all the utilities and get all the walls and everything insulated. And, where does electrical and everything, like all the utilities to get there is just kind of a hard thing to do that ends up costing 150, 200 grand anyways. And you end up with like a, 400 square foot unit. Where can I view a model of your 750 to 1,000 square foot home? So we've got two 1200s. I think I have an 800 coming to San Jose pretty soon. We have other floor plans in San Diego, and then like a bunch of like pop-up options throughout this year that we're still working on. But I would definitely recommend checking out our not only our website gallery page, that is awesome. You can see all the different floor plans and drill in. If you start looking at any of our homes online, you can kind of scroll down to the bottom and you can see video walkthroughs or Matterport tours of the inside of those homes. You can see a lot of information of a lot of our homes. Pretty much all of them have been made multiple times with all the latest and greatest specs. So you get a pretty clean representation of what those homes look like virtually, but then we also have quite a few model homes throughout. So just sync up with anyone from our team. Better yet, if you are ready to go, then sign up for that project proposal, and the home consultants know all of their clients and might be able to make a special phone call for you to see an ADU in your neighborhood. Definitely done that. What's the base price for the 440? So that is like a 450 square foot home. That kind of has like a underlying other questions around that. All ADUs require a lot of the same things, right? They require utilities, permits, grading, foundation, gutters and downspouts, finish work on site, landings, maybe some hardscape, landscape. They require a lot of the same stuff, whether you're building a 440 square foot unit or a 1,200 square foot unit. Sure, costs change a little bit there, but the 440, if you don't have the space to build anything else, that is still a great option. And that's the picture right here that you see. It's a shed style 450 in San Jose, and they put a big old sliding glass door on it, and it's a great flexible little unit there. But they can definitely get still to be low to mid 200 range. And I think that that's worth your time to, if you can fit anything else. We also have a new series, C series, that launched last week that are really a really good deal right now. They're giving us great deals from this new factory partner that we have to launch an ADU series with them. And there's several new floor plans that are even less than some of the figures that were thrown out here on our website. But yeah, I mean, any of these projects are going to be, say, 200 and up. That's pretty common, and that's not us asking for a lot of money. That's just what building ADUs in California costs. The good news is they cost the same amount whether you're building in Menlo Park or you're building in Sacramento. So like it's going to pencil in most geographically metropolitan cities. You're going to be good there. But what the last thing I'll say about that 450 is like, we can do multiple proposals, because I would encourage you, if you have the space, to consider a 550. It's just going to be easier to live in long-term, a little more elbow room and a little more traditional layout than like a stackable washer and dryer in that bedroom. So if you have the space, the difference in price is probably going to be like just the MSRP difference of the unit itself, which is I think $14,000 or so. So definitely worth checking out multiples of those. Financing and how to. Good question. We figured out a long time ago, hey, ADUs are not mortgages, and there's then like a lot of different options to access all this equity that everyone in California just got over the last few years. So how do we pay for these ADU projects? And are they construction loans or second mortgages, HELOCs? There's a lot there. And we have the best financial contacts. They're third party, which should be helpful to you. It's pretty transparent. We're going to connect you with the best people that we have found to help you get as many options to fund ADUs as possible. If you can't find a way to fund it, then we don't have the opportunity to build a home for you. So we already scoured the nation and have a few really good contacts. So definitely, when you start working with, sign up for a project proposal, that's when you get introduced to the finance contacts that are best in your neighborhood, because it does change. Local credit unions sometimes have really good rates that maybe not everyone in California can get. ADA homes already built. We might. A lot of ADA, like what that really means is like accessibility, just in general, wider doors. You got to check out our new 480. That home has 3-foot by 8-foot doors in this relatively small house with 9-foot ceilings. So it's like the biggest little house out there. And that's going to have the best accessibility options. And it's a really fast project. And it's the least expensive home that Villa currently offers. So it's kind of a win on all those. It's probably only going to be about 6 or 8 weeks longer to build that home exactly to your like specifications, mirrored floor plan, or if you don't want eaves or if you need sprinklers. It's going to fit that property perfectly and only be maybe weeks longer than if we already had a home already made. I do know some things about California grants. They are, so Cal HFA grant, $40,000, didn't really roll out that grant super well, was not really structured. Also, if you guys need to jump, you can. I'm just going to finish up a few more Q&A here, but like definitely check out our website. If you are at all interested in building anything in your property, that project proposal is well worth your time. It's not that much time for you to commit, but it's going to be extremely concentrated and really help you just get the most information out of building any structure in your property that you can hold against anybody and ask, do you do this, this, this? Did you budget for a soils test? Did you budget for electrical meter? Did you budget for power upgrade and a site survey? We're going to include all that in there. It doesn't make a difference to us. We need to show you what it will cost to build an ADU in your property. And the best way to do that is a project proposal. So if you got a hop, I'm hoping that this is going to be recorded and emailed to you. And if it doesn't, then, you know, roll the dice, but you're going to talk to either myself or another high energy home consultant that's helping lots and lots of people throughout California build ADUs if you sign up for a project proposal, and we can continue the conversation. Cal HFA grant was a little messy. It was rolled out a little quickly, and the distributors of that grant were really limited and not ready for 10,000 people to contact their offices in a month. and there was a handful of people there working, and it just got overwhelmed. They eventually they reached their limit of what they were able to do sign up wise. I think it was $100 million grant, so 2,500 people were able to sign up. They went a little over that, and now there's maybe possibilities to still get that. It's not like an active thing though that people are able to capture still. And if it makes you feel any better, the grant says it's for pre-construction, but you actually have to fund the whole project first and then kind of retroactively pay for some things. And there's a lot of fees associated with that grant. So it ended up being like $31,000. So I know people that just said, wow, this is a nightmare. It's not even worth 30 grand to me for this to do. So don't beat yourself up too much if you didn't get it. Even our new C series homes are still about $20,000 to $30,000 less than our H series customizable homes. So we got you that grant money back just by offering a new line of homes to consider. For the $500 assessment, would Villa experts be able to tell me trenching for gas, water, electric lines, new shed or something? Yeah, exactly. We provide you with a lot of information around building an ADU on your property, and that includes every single little thing that we can think of. We even put on-site restroom facility cost allowance in there for you, because it doesn't work for anybody if we are so far off our initial proposal. Then we go through 4 months of permitting and do a final bid, and you already just worked with our lender and everyone, you're ready to go, and you've got $250,000, and now this project proposal final cost ends up being 320 grand. You're like, okay, well, we just wasted 4 or 5 months of time together, and Villa doesn't win. We want to help you build the home, but we just worked for 4 months for $9,500. That doesn't really pencil for anybody. So we don't want to do that. We'd rather just be super transparent with you. Hey, we did 16 projects in and around this community in the last 3 years, and these are our learnings, and this is what you should allocate initially. Let's round up a little bit. So you've got a nice little buffer zone, and then we'll fine tune it once we get final permits and actually buy out the project. You can get that $500 back at any point until you decide to go forward with the project. And if you need to, if that's what gets you over the line, you get the $500 back and still go for the project. I could probably do that for you. So again, there's no strings attached. We just can't offer that extensive of work for free initially. But I promise you, you're going to love it, and you're going to learn a lot about building, and it's going to be hard to say no probably at that point, because it's going to make a lot of sense, hopefully. Yeah, we use cranes because these are prefab structures. A lot of times, this kitchen and everything here is all set up and ready to go when it was delivered. So yeah, we need to use a crane to set it in the backyard. It's not, small crane could be $9,500. It's not crazy money to use a crane. The big ones can reach about 160 feet, and that gets a little more serious in the $20-something thousand range. But, again, the alternative option is kind of the Wild West. You don't really know when the project's going to be done. You don't really have any control over cost. You have to be your own project manager, and you have to live in a construction zone for a year. And that becoming the most popular house in your neighborhood and experiencing a crane set is a day you'll never forget. Those are few and far between in life now. So small price to pay for a smooth seamline project. Okay, last question, I think. Since you are not in my area, can I purchase the information to build your home myself? Well, I don't think you'd want to do that, because our homes are designed and built as prefab HUD homes. So you wouldn't necessarily be able to physically build this home yourself. Even if we did, we don't sell our designs. there's nothing stopping you from being inspired by our design and then going over to an architect and designing something similar. But again, you should confirm that we don't service your area. It's probably still worth holding out a couple months too, because we keep growing and keep expanding. So if we can build in your area, that just saves you a lot of time. Okay, last question. Is it possible to get 4 acres outside of city limits zoned for multifamily? The solar on ADU changed the NEM on the primary residence. Do you have any referrals for alternative septic system? All good questions. Yeah, this is like, you've been thinking about this. This is not a surface level question here. We're really diving into the minutia here. Yeah, sometimes properties are zoned multifamily, but if they only have one home on it, we can only build 1 ADU. If it's zoned multifamily and has a duplex, we can build 2 ADUs. If it's zoned single family, but it also has a duplex, we might actually still be able to build you 2 ADUs. So it's complicated. We're not required to do solar because we don't build to Title 24. If you built to Title 24, had anyone stick building you an ADU, you're going to have to put solar on it. And I'm not sure what like NEM 2.0 contract versus 3.0. That's interesting though, because I'm learning a lot more about solar and it's changing April 13th to NEM 3.0. I think if you have the design, the permit design already in place, you're good, but right, you'd have to do an additional solar. So that could actually be a lot more expensive to build a detached ADU, stick build it, and then be required to do a NEM 3.0 solar contract with a battery backup. That could be a lot more expensive, which would make building a villa home all that much better because we can bypass the need for solar. Boom. All right, I'm going to run, but we'd love to keep talking with you guys. All really good questions. Thank you very much for tuning in. There's a lot of you here today. Hopefully I didn't talk too fast. Just excited about what we're doing. We're really changing the lives of thousands of people and doing it through getting nice, cool, affordable homes, and figured out a way to do it that's fairly seamless and a nice experience for you guys, a lot of which you can do on our website for free by just going to villahomes.com, get started and typing in your address and start playing around with stuff as soon as today. Thanks again. Appreciate it. And hopefully we'll be talking soon. Take care.